Good evening, everybody, and welcome to our ReggieCon panel discussing the Parable of the Talents in celebration of Black History Month. I got to meet the panelists a little bit earlier, and let me tell you, you are all in for a real treat. My name is Jana Albrecht, and I'm the Associate Vice President for Enrollment Management here at Illinois State University. Before we begin the panel, I do have a few details just to keep everything running smoothly for all of you in the audience and for all of the panelists. We do record this session. So first of all, we record it. It will be on the ReggieCon website. Second, many of you will need to do a confirmation of attendance for the event tonight. We'll post that towards the end of the panel so you can complete that, and then we'll send that off to your faculty members. Third, the presenters' video and audio are on, but remember, they cannot hear or see any of you as guests. That said, we do monitor the Q&A function, and we encourage you to ask those questions early and often. It's one of the panelists' favorite things to do is answer some of your questions. Just know that they may not get to the question right away, but if you think of a question, type it in, and they will get to it soon, or as soon as they can. So last update is just a reminder to check on the ReggieCon website for previous panels. It also allows you to stay in the know for our future panel and our future events. So enough of the housekeeping. I'm really excited. I'm pleased to introduce our fearless leader, Dr. Scott Jordan. Dr. Jordan is the former chair of psychology here at Illinois State. He also happens to be our moderator and a panelist for tonight's discussion. So Scott, please take it away.
Thank you for that, Dr. Albrecht. Sorry for the short delay, but as soon as I hit share, it flipped the menus all over the screen. But hey, welcome everyone to ReggieCon, the con that asks the question, what's your story? I'm Dr. Scott Jordan, aka Zombie Scotty. I'm a cognitive scientist philosopher here at Illinois State University. And tonight we come together to celebrate Black History Month with a discussion of yet another graphic novelization of a work by the award-winning author Octavia Butler, Parable of the Talents. Joining me in tonight's discussion, wonderful ladies of Sistah Speak Productions. Please go ahead and come on in. All righty. So our special guest, John Jennings, we're experiencing some short-term technical difficulties, but he will be here shortly, I hope. In the interim, it is my absolute pleasure to introduce to you my favorite podcasting team ever, the women of Sistah Speak Productions. So ladies, please tell us who you are, and I'll ask each of you to answer a question. And of course, we have John Jennings. John, these are the wonderful women of Sistah Speak Productions.
Hello.
Wonderful women of Sistah Speak Productions, award-winning graphic artist, Professor John Jennings. So John, I already started introducing the ladies. I'm going to go ahead and finish that, and then I'll come back and introduce you. Is that cool? All right. So, Sistah K, please tell everybody a little something about who you are, what you do, and then tell us something about how all of you got involved in podcasting.
Okay, so I am Sistah K, real name Kelsey Williams, and I'm excited to be here, so thank you, Scott. So we have a podcast called Sistah Speak Productions, and it started with Sistah J and I about almost 18 years ago, and we decided to talk about TV and movies from a Black woman's perspective because we saw a lot of stereotypical people being cast on reality TV in particular, but also other, dramatized shows where the Black person was always a stereotype. So we wanted to talk about that, and then it kind of morphed into talking about some of our favorite television shows, and we still sprinkled in some of our commentary on stereotypes, but it just got so much deeper. We ended up creating a very wonderful group called Sistah Speak Nation, and we have so many wonderful members we call them our family, our Sistah Speak family, that we've done some meetups. We call our family reunions. We have really just fostered this really wonderful community, and that's how I met Sir Zombie Scotty, as we like to call him. And it's just been life-changing for me and hopefully for everyone else who's a part of our family.
Awesome.
That's amazing. And might I elaborate for a brief moment? Not only am I Sir Zombie Scotty, I am Sir Zombie Scotty of House Silverfox, Lord
That's
Commander of the Sistah's
Guard,
Slayer of Dance Floors, Keeper of the Rose, Loser at Spades. Let's just make all that.
Yes.
I was going to say that. I was going to drop that spades.
Can't forget that part.
These are titles that I acquired along the way, hanging out in the Sistah Speak Nation. Okay then, Sister J, please
Yes.
say a little something about who you are, what you do, and what it's like to be one of the leaders of the Sistah Speak Nation.
Okay, I'm Sistah J. As you can see, Jennifer, J is for Jennifer. What do? I talk a lot of stuff and back it up. I'm the enforcer.
She's a hammer.
I'm the hammer, as I was recently told by Scott.
Yeah.
But as Kay said, what we do and what I do is I always point out, because I am the oldest, how things operate and evolve not in a vacuum. Because I find that a lot of times when people are discussing television shows or this and that, they want to do it in like it's a self-contained life or entity, and it's not. So you have to, I try to pull in everything and keep everybody grounded. Other than that, I am retired, so I have lots of time to read, research, and talk.
And she's well known for the slogan, keep that blank short.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Because the sisters are amazing. Every podcast they do, they read every single bit of viewer mail that gets sent in.
And I would like to add that I'm famous. I'm actually a famous person. I am famous for my read. And we have some family members who send texts and emails asking for a read. And that is where I have to, be like a parent and
do your civic
spank
duty.
them a bit. Yes, spank them a bit. So
having been the receiver of such spankings in the past, it's absolutely amazing. Oops.
Oopsie.
No. And now, last but not least, Sistah LM. Welcome. Please tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, and what it's like to attend one of your family reunions.
Ooh. I am Sistah LM, that stands for L Marie. I also go by Literary Marie. And so I am a very avid reader and also a book blogger.
Oh.
But our podcast, we have built such a good community with all of our listeners that we call each other, we're the Sistah Speak Nation. And so a few years ago, we started doing annual get-togethers, like a family reunion. And if you have ever come to a Sistah Speak family reunion, it is an experience you will never, ever forget. Is meeting people that you either hear their voices or you hear their emails or feedback being read. So it's like everyone knows everyone without meeting in person before attending a reunion. Yeah. It really is like long lost family. And you're like, where have you been all my life? These are my people.
Yeah.
That's the sense that you get when you come to one of our reunions.
And I tell you, if you have it in you to dance to funk music from the 70s and 80s.
That's right.
This is your place.
Yes.
Yeah. My sister and I go, my sister can dance and just dance the night away. It's an absolute blast.
We make a mean playlist to dance to.
Gotta have the P-Funk.
Yes.
For real. I mean,
Always.
you better.
God knows.
All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, again, ladies, thank you so much for being here. I can't wait for this discussion. And also joining us in tonight's discussion is special guest is the award-winning artist who illustrated Parable of Talents, already having illustrated Parable of the Sower, as well as Kindred, Professor John Jennings. John, please say hi to everyone. Tell them a bit about what you do.
Hello.
And briefly describe how you get involved in creating these graphic novel versions of Octavia Butler novels, and when are you guys doing Wild Seed?
Yes.
Well, that's a lot of things. Anyway, yeah, thank you for having me. Again, my name is Professor John Jennings, and I'm an artist and storyteller. I work primarily in the comics medium, as you know, but I teach media and cultural studies here at the University of California at Riverside, where me and my family reside. And Yeah, I've been here for about 10 years, and I teach courses on Afrofuturism and aesthetics. I teach a course on Afrofuturism and the visual cultures of horror, and I also teach a course on uh, Black superheroes and politics, actually, and also just a comics course. So I teach in a media studies program, but my background is in art. I have a terminal degree in graphic design and studio art, and a minor in drawing, and also a master's in art education. So I'm an art teacher, but I'm also a trained graphic designer, illustrator, right? So yeah, basically what I look at is Afrofuturism and how it affects like how we see the world. So it's not more. So I teach that it's more than like a genre or like a style. It's actually like a way of seeing. So the idea of recentering or centering Black ideologies or Afrocentric notions through the speculative. And so when I say the speculative, I mean things that are considered not to be real. So like, fantastic things or surrealism or, science fiction or fantasy, those or horror, and yeah, so that's part of what I do. And over the last few years, I've become probably one of the most notable scholars in the area, in that particular space. We could talk more about that. Now, as far as how we ended up doing the Octavia Butler books, I won't get in. I won't do the long version because I don't want to get like fussed at by Sister J. So I'm gonna keep it short.
I don't want to read.
But but let's suffice it to say, like me and Damien, who's also a comic scholar. He teaches at the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign in Champaign, and we were actually getting ready to speak about one of our other books, which is called Black Comics, and it's a collection of like Black independent comic artists from across the country. It's our first version. We did two versions of it. So this had to be like 2000 and what was that, 2016, something like that. I think I was still teaching at the University of Buffalo, at SUNY Buffalo. And we were speaking about Black Comics, our book, on this panel that was put together by Blacks in Film. And so it was being hosted by Robin Givens, actually, which was wow. So very nice lady.
I
And
like her.
yeah, she's really sweet. And her son loves comics too, by the way. So anyway, so we're out there, and Damien's in the air on his way. I got there first. I'm on the floor at the Comic-Con, and Scott's been there many times, right? So I was walking around. I'm trying to pitch ideas that we're working on. I'm working on several things with Damien and a couple other things. So I have my iPad. I walk up to Abrams Comic Arts, and I show the lady my work. Her name is Sheila Keenan. She at the time was the senior editor at Abrams, very talented editor. And so she looks at my work and she's like, "Oh my goodness, I really like your style." I was like, "Oh, thank you," And she's like, "I'm trying to I just got the rights to to do an adaptation of a particular book." And she's like, "Are you familiar with Octavia Butler's work?" And I was like, "Well, yes, yeah, I am, very much so." And I was like, "What book are you trying to do?" And she said, "Kindred." And I was like, "Oh, wow, okay." Yeah, that sounds amazing. So, about five months later, we got the opportunity to do it. Yeah, it was difficult, but yeah, essentially, I think because of the work that we had been doing previously, and I think the fact that we had actually adapted some other things before, and both of us were comic scholars, that they really liked how we came at the project. Um, we had to do 17 pages, 17 pages, to show to the estate so they could see that we're doing,
Okay.
you know. And if they hadn't liked those initial 17 pages, then the deal would have been off actually. So, but they liked them, so we kept going. And there was a little bit of tumult, around the editorial side, but we got through that. And I have to say, like, I've been a graphic designer for a long time now. Since I'm 54, and I've been being a designer since like maybe 2021, something like that. People always have changes, right? It's the wrong color, it's too big, that kind of thing, right? We turned in that graphic novel, and the estate had no notes at all.
Oh,
At all.
Wow.
They were like, "This is Kendrick."
excellent.
And I was
That's
like,
amazing.
"What? That is impossible." We actually, yeah, so
It is kindred.
it is Kendrick, right? So it not they were like, "This is the book. This is, we made some changes here there to fit the format, But yeah, we felt like we did the best that we could do. And I think the main reason is because we collaborated with our third collaborator, which was Octavia Butler. You know,
Yes.
Octavia Butler is our third collaborator, on Kindred. We basically tried to take what she wrote in those books, in the 1970s, and translate it to another medium, you know, to edify the story and to purify the story for that comics form. And I guess we did a pretty decent job at it. So
you guys did a great job.
Yeah, thank you. And so then what happens is, like, the estate, they loved it and they said, "Hey, what do you want to do next?" And then so we're going into the first, Trump 1.0. And so we decided, like, you know what, we probably need to do Parable of the Soul and Parable of Talents.
Yeah, no, well, Parable of the Talents really didn't read like speculative fiction. I mean, we'll leave it at that for now, but it was.
Yeah, because
Right.
Well, John, thank you so much for being here. This is going to be an absolute blast. John, you've been here before, but I want to quickly let everybody know the format of ReggieCon. What I've asked each of the panelists to do is pick their favorite frame from the graphic novel. And then what I'm going to do is share that frame with the audience and ask the person who picked it to explain why they picked it. And then once that person finishes saying what they're saying, John, you have first dibs on follow-up. And then the rest of us can kick in and have a conversation. And after a while, we'll need to move on to the next image. But that's how we do this here. But quickly, because I'm jumping the gun, I want to share, I want to thank the people in the background who let us here on the Zoom screen feel like we're doing a good job. I want to thank Mr. Sean Thornton, who does all the graphic work for ReggieCon. Today, we probably have about 30, 40 of these images. We're going to make a book out of it.
Wow, good job.
Because he's amazing. And then Dr. Jana Albrecht, she is a strong supporter of ReggieCon, and you saw her earlier in the video, and we very much appreciate her office's support. Miss Summer Simmons, she's here as well in the background. Summer makes sure everybody has the right Zoom room link, etc. Sets up the Zoom room for us, helps me clean it up later after everybody's gone. So thank her for doing that. Miss Danny Schroeder, she runs, she's in marketing and communications at the university, and she makes sure that everything we publish is in accordance with university standards and such. And then Ms. Julie Manier Perez works in the same office. She runs the Instagram, Threads accounts, Facebook accounts for the university. For about the past 6 months, we've been producing reels advertising these ReggieCon events. And I've been using student music. So I went to a music class about a year ago and gave the students the assignment to write 30, 40-second jingles to do background. Just look up Illinois State on Instagram, and you'll find some of those reels there. They're really fun to make, and the students really write music well. And then Miss Kelly Harmon, she's in the Department of Psychology. She just makes sure all the budget, she makes sure all the budget items get managed properly. We all know nothing's happening without the budget. So I wanted to thank all them. All right, so here we're going to go to our first image. This is Sistah K, aka Kelsey Williams. So Kelsey, why'd you pick this image? Say what you want about it, and then tell us why you chose it.
I chose this image because, to me, first of all, I love the 4 panels in the middle and the way that they each depict action and her taking action and fighting back. And I don't know, something about it just struck me. The coloring, the way it's situated on the page. And just at this point in the graphic novel, I was like, yeah, let's fight back. Let's start, taking some action, or I don't know. It really struck me, and I really loved the coloring, the imagery, and what the story was telling at that point in time.
Okay. You want
to go ahead, John.
Yeah, it's also one of my favorite pages, actually, for a lot of the same reasons. What's interesting about Parable of the Talents is because of the fact that it was a much longer narrative. and my responsibilities had shifted because I also run an imprint at Abrams called Megascope. Um, Scott's pretty, yeah, y'all might be pretty familiar with it too. But so we brought on the amazing David Brame as our breakdown artist, and also as technically he was our penciler, you know. So I handled the colors and inks and stuff too, right? But I actually have a coloring team, and I actually was able to secure a grant to actually pay for like a whole squad of colorists. We actually had 7 colorists working on this, and we had a
Wow.
point person who's a former student of mine. Her name is Alexandria Batchelor. You probably saw that Whoopi Goldberg has a new graphic novel out called The Change. So she was the colorist
I
on that.
didn't know that. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, it's about a woman who's going through menopause, and when she goes menopause, she gets superpowers. Actually, it's
There you go.
pretty dope, actually. So Alexandria and David were like really key to actually get the feel of the book together.
Yeah.
And you know what I decided to do was actually put the tones in early. So a lot of times when you're doing inks, you just do the inks without any type of coloring and stuff. But to expedite matters, I decided to actually put the tones into the inks. And so we added colors, man. It just had a totally different feel with so much energy, you know.
Mm.
And the subtlety of this page right here, like it breaks my heart that she actually had to kill somebody. You know what I'm saying? That's the thing. It's like, you definitely have the rage that's happening and the staccato nature. You know, when you read a comic, like when you see panels happening like that, that means it's going fast. You know, and it's like pop, 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 pop. You know, it's almost like little staccato moments. You know, but also with the length of it, it actually kind of gives it like this really beautiful cinematic feel. I don't know. I just really I echo what you said. I really feel this is like very cathartic, you know, and this part of the novel was extremely difficult for everybody for us to create, and so we actually had to kind of lean into and focus on the aesthetic process to actually get us through which was a very it was a very difficult section to do. So thank you for your words on it. It's one of my favorite pages too. So.
Anybody else on the panel want to follow up?
So
I just
Go
love
ahead.
the coloring on it because you can just feel the action through the page.
Thank you. Thank you. I often say that colors, if you want to use graphic novels as an analog to film, that coloring to me feels like the soundtrack.
Oh,
Sets the
absolutely.
mood. It sets the mood.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it gives you the atmosphere, you know, shows the emotion.
Mhm.
And, you know, something like here, you can see like because red, as you know, if you read Parable of Sword, that's the symbol of her own hyper empathy,
Yeah.
you know.
Yep.
And this right here is like it's the hyper empathy going, but it's also like the rage of what she's like for the last like few months of being in captivity and being assaulted and being treated like an animal, you know, for like you know what I'm saying, in a space that she helped build. Oh my God, can you imagine?
Yeah, no
It's just
joke.
so much.
Can't
Amazing.
imagine.
Yeah, I
I,
couldn't imagine. Yeah,
Octavia Butler does not hold back.
she does not.
No.
When things are violent, they are really violent. And what I mean, I'm going to say something that complements what everyone else says. This is the moment of truth. They either do this now or they're done.
That's right.
And that urgency is there in the contrast between the red and the brown. You know, the background is the matter of fact third person. This is the description of what's going on. But the red in the middle is what it feels like to be there. And it's a moment of truth. It has to happen now. And
Yeah,
yeah, I absolutely love it.
feels wild to see it out of context like this too. You know what I'm saying? I was like,
Yeah,
It
yeah.
does a little bit.
yeah, I was like,
Well,
woof.
so
Yeah.
we've been using this format at ReggieCon. This is our 5th year. And what we find is that artists and authors tend not to have conversations like this during interviews. And so
Not a lot.
this is the thing that we like to do. We want to celebrate the art and give the artists an opportunity to express what they were after. Because, you know, you said the creative process was joint and difficult.
Yes.
And while it was joint and it was difficult and intense, you guys must all be thoroughly satisfied with the outcome.
It was one of the most celebratory things. And because, we actually did get like, and I can show it to you, like we actually do have like preview copies of it now. And and it's coming out in April, after, and it feels like such a load off of us,
Yeah. No, it's fantastic. Well done. Okay, we'll go ahead. Anyone else want to make any final comments about this image? Cool beans, and we'll go on to the next one. Sistah J, this is your
is this
slide.
me?
There you go.
Oh, this is near the end.
Okay, first of all, I just want to point out that, I'm a Octavia E. Butler fanatic. I've read every book several times. And this was really well done, in my opinion, the whole book, because you get the feeling, of the different voices that are speaking. And there's at least 3 different narrators in the book. So I really like this, but I chose this because people who know me know I don't like to fly. So I'm reading along in the book and everything, and she says this, and I wrote it down so I could read it properly, because it just immediately, I internalized it to my own life, which I probably shouldn't do. But anyway, where she says, I've been invited to speak, paid to travel and speak, which is like paying ice to be cold. That just really, really resonates with me because as people in our Sistah Speak family nation know, I'm a retired lawyer. And I resonate with this because I'm an English major. I want to write books. So I have written 4 books, crime fiction novels. And this is like when my very first legal job after law school was research and writing opinions for 13 appellate court judges. That's what I did all day.
Wow.
I couldn't believe my luck, a writer, and I got to apply my legal degree writing every day. So that's why I picked this, because it just got my heart.
There you go.
And plus, it was a very good graphic for me because I do fear flying. So I like this. Identify with this immediately. That picture on the bottom.
I thought about you when I got to this.
I knew you would. I knew you would. But more than just the flying, it is what she said in that top panel. That's what really got me. And of course, the flying is on that same page. But I just immediately identified with Olamina because people don't understand what that feels like. And I felt that way. I felt that. She said, like, paying ice to be water. So that's why I did it.
I love it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And one more comment I do want to make, and that is
3 more comments. It's all good.
Okay. Just as a personal note, Wild Seed is my favorite book. So hopefully you'll do that.
It's mine as well.
Oh, it's amazing.
The Wild Seed is also mine. Yeah, honestly, like, if this does well, I think this is going to do well. If we do if they want us to do another one, we already have a proposal in for Wild Seed, just so you know.
Oh, great. Yeah.
For me, it would be my next. I mean, I can't see doing something else. It's just, I think it's just so good,
Yes.
It really is.
Okay.
Anybody else want to follow up on this image? All right, let's take a quick break here because we've already got a question in the Q&A. I'm going to, 2 questions. I'm going to throw these out to the panel, and you all just start talking, and then let me do my job as moderator, and we'll get through there. So here's the first question. This is from Kennedy Odell. Hello. For my question, I would like to ask, what is a real-life example of where we see othering that relates to Black History and Black History Month? Now, the reason there are students in this class, students in this Zoom meeting who are a class of mine, a senior seminar where I'm teaching them what I call multi-scale othering, because you can other people in your personal space, you can other people through redlining. There's all kinds of different scales that you can use to keep people out and let some in. And when you start looking at the world in terms of who's being let in where and who's being kept out at different scales, you learn to see the world a little differently. And so that's what I'm trying to impart on the students. So they come with these othering questions. So I would like to ask, what is a real life example of where we see othering that relates to Black history and Black History Month? And the floor is open.
Hmm. Well, I mean, one very powerful one that resonates with me is probably the segregation practices that were happening during Jim Crow, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where and I came up in Mississippi, so you know, in the middle of that particular time, you actually had municipal signage and practices that were on the books that were laws that basically strictly othered people and demonized them and actually restricted their movements and their capabilities and all these different things. So I feel like when I look at something like, for instance, the signage, as a graphic designer, I used to work in corporate America where you would get like a what do you call it, a manual according to like logos and practices and stuff. It's like a style manual, right? So for instance, if you work for like Nike or if you look for like Coca-Cola, you'll get like best practices and stuff. So
Right.
being that these signage, like it was like no dogs, no blacks, no Jews, whatever, right? No coloreds allowed, that kind of thing. Whites only, those particular types of signs were designed by someone on
Yep.
purpose. Those particular signs had a particular X height. They had a particular way that was actually prescribed by someone who was an art director who said, you use this typeface, uses this X height, this many spaces apart. So it is designed and intrinsic in that particular system. Not only othering, but also like othering that was sanctioned by the government and by the laws, but also sanctioned by art and design. And I'm a graphic designer, so when I look at this stuff, I'm like, this is insidious. So that, yeah, that's one particular, aspect to me that I think about. So,
Well,
Anyone else? Yeah.
what I think about is, for me personally, I believe you have a big, huge example of othering sitting in this panel, and that is Sistah Speak. When we began that, we wanted our voices heard. But the best part of our othering is our, as Sistah LM pointed out, our family reunions that we had before COVID every year. And we interact with people regardless of race, religion, creed, sexuality, whatever the case is that you identify yourself. We could care less. You speak with respect to other people. You treat people with respect when you're in their presence, because that's what we do. Now, I will read you if you get on my nerves, but that's not disrespectful. That's just, teaching you something, like you spare the rod, you spoil the child,
That's how families do.
That's what families do. But we honestly began our whole podcast being that way. In our very first year, and I remember way back in our very first year, and we've been doing this for 18 years, we had people text us from Belgium, from Germany, from Australia, and we have international people because we treat everybody the same. And we could care less. And everybody who comes to us and is among us, they know that about us. So they treat everybody else that way because we don't tolerate anything different.
On that note, I will say over the years, especially earlier, we did have some people wrote in. It was more than one or two, but we had some people write in with some negative racist type comments and things to say. And the way that we handled it, we still read it on the on the podcast. We still let people, because one thing I really wanted to do with ours in particular was to let people know real people of color. And we would say things like they were. We would be honest about things that we deal with on a day-to-day basis. And I wanted it to be known, this is the kind of stuff that people of color deal with on a daily basis, just minding their own business and doing what they wanted to do.
Yep.
And so we would read it out and then we would say, okay, thank you for your opinion. Feel free to keep on scrolling through the podcast list. And if it continues, your IP address will be shared. And that ended a lot of issues because I didn't want to be around that. I didn't want our listeners to be, our family members to be around that and have that energy. But I did want it to be known, this is things that happen. And so I think that's the only way that we're going to be able to move through, because so many people still to this day in 2025 think in some cases that it's made up. Racism and discrimination and all of this is not real. And it's all in our heads and we just want to focus on that and be woe is me, woe is me, woe is me. No, that's not the case. It actually still happens today. And until we are able to talk about it, reveal when it happens and let people see the real toll that it takes on people, it's not going to, I mean, in my opinion, it's not going to change anyway, but you know, at least we're letting it be known out there for those who think that it's a fallacy. It's not real.
Right.
And I would like to point out that those particular podcasts are some of the most highly downloaded podcasts, because not only would we read them and I would give them one of my reads, but then the very next week podcast, our family members would comment on that person.
Yep. They'd read them for us too.
Yeah.
They'd read them again. So,
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, you know, the Sistah Speak Nation is a very inclusive place, unless you bring a weak spades game to the table. and
Well,
then you get
that kind of age. I don't even play spades no more. It's a full contact sport.
It is a full contact.
Hey, I'll send you to Boston every day.
Like, I'm not even going to be up in there. I'm not going to even be up in there. I've seen
There you go.
Over pick spade games. I'm like, no. I'm like, no.
So the questions, we got a lot of people asking questions now. I think we're going to roll with this for a bit. So Jillian N., she asked, Dr. Jordan, why do you think artists tend to not have conversations like this? Do you think it's a social norm?
Good question.
I think that interviewers are used to asking people like, what was your motivation? What were you trying to do? How'd you become an artist? And it becomes more of a autobiography than it does necessarily about the work. So if I've got someone like John here live, I want him to see people gush about the work. I want him to hear it. And then I want to get his response, because I just don't see people being asked. And I've been to my share of cons, and very rarely do I see an artist showing a piece of their work and interpreted from someone else's perspective, and everybody gets to resonate. And that's what they're doing. So that's why, and we just happened, like the very first ReggieCon we ever did, we had Fabio Moon. Well, they didn't have Fabio Moon. We did Day Tripper by Fabio Moon.
Oh, man.
Fabio Moon actually creeped into our Zoom room and he came in and I fanboyed, and we started this whole let's pick our favorite frame thing, and we've been doing it ever since. And artists tend to leave really appreciating that we spent our time that way. So that's the answer to that one. Here's Joshua Ray Valentine. Hello. What would you describe as the biggest abuse of othering in today's society, and how could we as a society make it better? I think we might have five different answers to that
There's
one.
so many. Like, I just want to just really quickly. You know, the first one that popped in my head was what has been happening to people who are transgendered, you know, in our country right now.
Yeah.
It's made invisible, and it hurts to see. And so I think right now I would say the laws and the disruption of their humanity, you know. And when I tell you that I'm super minority, we're talking about under 1%, I think, of our country, you know. But it was, you know, so that was, I have students who are transgendered who are wonderful people, and it just, it hurt me to see that kind of like hatred being pointed at them. So,
yeah. For me, the overturning of Roe v. Wade was absolutely devastating. Absolutely devastating. How you explain that to your daughters? That a bunch of people decided what they're supposed to do with their body? Unbelievable. So there are all kinds of large scale otherings going on right
Let's
now.
not stay here too long.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah,
fair
let's
enough.
not,
Yeah, I don't want
because
to
you
stay
know
too
what?
long.
Because that is, in my opinion, that's a very political question,
Yes.
and it depends upon how you believe politically,
Yes.
what you believe. It's just like religion. It's the
Uh-huh.
same thing. It's different for
Yeah.
different people. So,
Yeah.
Excellent. So we're going to move on to another question by Katie Cowglin. How have Black characters in comics been portrayed? Have they been othered through stereotypes or limited to certain roles?
Man, yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
say yes.
Woo,
Yeah.
yes. Actually, it's funny because ironically, me and my friend Angelique Roche, who you should probably reach out to about some of the stuff she's been doing, she's the woman who actually like jump-started Marvel's voices over at Marvel Comics. So
Mm.
just turned in our updated draft for My Superhero is Black, which is a history of Marvel's black superheroes from 1950 to current day. So, um, a lot of the stereotypes that are being generated from blackface minstrelsy, which is like, mostly like performed by like white
Mm.
folks put on, blackface and such like that.
Right.
Stereotypes around black people were generated out of, even the name Jim Crow comes from blackface minstrelsy. It was a character from blackface minstrelsy.
Yeah.
And up until like 1930s, it actually was just as popular as rock and roll. There's all like seriously, it was all kinds of like, movies with like people like Shirley Temple and other characters, people putting on, and actually like, even paying like black folk to actually like, you know, embody those types of stereotypes. So, if you look at like early film all the way into like, the talkies and stuff like that, you're seeing these characters. And of course, the artists who are making early comic books, which, if you look at like the early comics, we're talking about like, 1930s and stuff when you create like superheroes, right? Superman's like what, 1938 or so. Even with those like those power fantasies, you're seeing like the effect of racist stereotypes um, becoming ingrained in those comics. So if you look at like early characters like Ebony White, which was a character that was with Will Eisner's the Spirit, he was like this little kind of very very stereotypical looking character. In Marvel, we had this character called Whitewash, actually. Whitewash was part of the Young Allies, and he was probably Marvel's first black character. He was dressed up in like a zoot suit, with the big hat, and he talked in English and stuff like that. And his power was getting in trouble and being saved by Captain America and Bucky, right? So, so yes, those particular othering stereotypes have been part of all media around how black people are, because stereotypes don't just pop out of the ground like daisies, they're designed. They have specific functions, right?
Well,
Yep.
all of Disney was stereotypes too.
Oh yeah.
Mickey Mouse, and what's the dog's name? Pluto.
Pluto.
They were designed off of black men, and then they slowly changed it to no, we can't really do that for people. So they changed it to like a mouse, and then the dog, and then stuff.
Yeah. Even Bugs Bunny and those characters. So
Yes.
if you look at like the gloves,
Yes.
and all of them have those gloves. Those are menstrual gloves. Those were
Yes.
actually those were actually standard, uh, objects that would be part of the menstrual. You would put on those white gloves, right? And be like, hey, that's where those come from. So yeah, those particular aspects, and you have to remember, like stereotype, the word stereotype, the root word of it is the word stereos, which is Greek. It means hard or fixed. Hard or fixed. So the idea is that these things do not change. They're supposed to be, it's about fixity, right? And so I think that the black subjectivity is a very radical notion, because as comic books start to actually progress, from like the 1960s and on, because you really don't see like a lot of really positive black super characters in modern day comics until the civil rights movement, and until like blaxploitation films, and then you start to see like, wait a minute, we need to change how we're thinking about these characters, and because society is changing, and so that's when you see the sea change. And you can actually, and we talk about that in our book, like you can actually see like um not only just like how characters are depicted, didn't even they didn't even have the proper brown for our skin back in the day. We used to
Hey,
all be
they
gray.
just got it for women.
Right. They used to be gray. We used to be gray back in the day. They didn't have the brown, it's so crazy. Even for like photography and stuff like that, they could not get
Yep.
like skin complexions correct in like magazines and stuff. You know, it actually changed that when they started doing like full color photography for furniture, for like wood furniture. Once they actually started getting like the different tones in wood, it's like, wait a minute, we can apply this to black folk too.
Wow.
Yeah. We were because the thing is, like, we were never supposed to be seen and depicted,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
So
I
we're not
mean, it
supposed-
seems so ludicrous now, but it's absolutely right. I mean,
no, seriously.
yeah.
I mean, and it's still pervasive too, you know. But you know what? We've come a long way. We have come a long way, and I think like the diversity that we see now in comics, and the fact that so many people of color, like myself, black people, black women, are making their own comics now. That's very exciting, actually. So,
Yes.
it's very exciting. So.
One thing I appreciated in reading Parable of the Talents, the graphic novel, is that there weren't many stereotypes being portrayed in the art. Was that something that you were conscious of?
Oh,
Or
yeah. So one of the things that I love about working with David is that David hates to draw stereotypical bodies. He hates it. He doesn't like to draw bodies that are perfect, that are overly, superhero looking, and he does he there's a weight and a beauty to women's bodies that he draws, and I just envy him. I try to draw like loose and beautiful like that, but he has a knack for giving a particular type of weight to black women's bodies and to women's bodies that I totally envy. And so, yeah, everything that we do is intentional in those books because you want everybody's not made up like Storm, you know. Storm is beautiful, you know. Some women made up like Jill Scott, you know what I'm saying? Some women made up like Grace Jones, so you have to have
Yes.
different body,
Yeah.
yeah. Or you look at a character, what a really great character who is I think designed really well is Sojourner Mullen, the new Green Lantern.
Okay.
Yeah, her body type is like, wait a minute, I know that body type. It was
Yeah.
very intentional because we want to push back against the stereotypes because so much of like superhero comics is about male performativity of power and about the male, so these women's bodies have to be supple and sexy and all this kind of stuff, right? But now, we have a spectrum of representation that is very exciting for me, so sorry. I went off
No,
on
there's no sorry, man.
went off on a
No,
tangent.
no. And Ellen pointed out a really good point, and that is, I'm thinking of the scenes where after the people of Acorn are captured and they separate the men and the women, and you have several women, and especially the interactions with Olamina and her daughter, but you can tell who's who in your graphic, which is good. And I mean all the way through, which is good.
We have a bunch of questions, yet
Wow.
I asked Sistah LM to send me an image, so I'm going to invite her to talk
Yeah.
about that image right now. We'll get to the questions. We have plenty of time. Those of you who have asked questions, make sure you stick around because we are going to answer them. LM, this is yours.
yes.
Oh yeah. I like this.
So this one was my favorite because I don't know about everyone else, but I'm a tea drinker, not coffee. But every morning when you're having your tea or your coffee, you do sit there and just think random thoughts. But her thoughts were so, I don't know, deeper than usual.
Right.
And you can see him in the background. I like the depiction of like his frown lines on his forehead. He's really focused. He's really paying attention. And you can just see that he's genuinely like, I'm listening to you. I'm actively listening. I need you to convince me.
Coley is a good man. He's a complex man.
Yes.
But one thing that he loved more than life itself was Lauren.
Yeah.
Yes.
And his expression in this frame, you can feel all that.
Yep. And
That's
she's
a good one.
You know, I love this. This is one of my favorite pages too. I love drawing them together, actually. You know what I'm
Mm,
saying?
Yeah.
Especially after like designing them. And this is cool because we designed them like for Parable of Sword, but then of course when you have another artist drawing it, he has to reference your designs, you know. And the other thing about Lauren is like, you know, I got to draw her from like age 15 all the way to like
Yeah.
80.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So that was
Yep.
crazy. You know, we watched these characters change and grow up, you know. And as Sister J stated too, like we had to really be cognizant of who was speaking.
Mm,
And also like you have this thing like and I love the way that Damien because Damien also is a letterer, you know.
mm,
Typeface
mm,
choices, that's all him.
Okay.
To make it look like it's on a piece of paper, that's him. You
Mm-hmm.
know, the notion of remediation of thoughts and stuff like that, you know, it's just so
mm.
much that we put into these. I hope people
Yeah.
feel, you know, because we live with this story for so long.
Yeah.
Oh,
But to me,
it's just so much.
to me, that was another really good thought decision or whatever, and is how the pages were laid out, because of the exposition was in the little square boxes
Mm-hmm.
Right.
up top. It was easy, but I really was really impressed with how you were able to, in a graphic novel, keep track of who was the speaker.
Mhm.
Mm.
And I really like that, because I remember reading the book that I didn't like the daughter much,
You know, yeah, but no one,
because I thought she was so disrespectful in her
she's a
thoughts
I
and
think
problematic.
I've heard you
actions.
say that before
Yeah, she's
about
one
the
of my.
other.
I don't like her that much either. Yeah,
I don't like her.
yeah.
Mm-mm.
Marcus is my least favorite because that dude is terrible. I hate
Yeah.
Marcus so much. I'm
But
like,
for her to side with him is just, oh,
Ah,
it
Yeah.
crushed my
ruthless.
I
soul. But
mean, it was
anyway,
a lot. Yes, that's what I'm saying. And so this is the thing. Like when we get into it, like Octavia understands people so well.
Oh
You know,
Yes,
yeah.
like
yes.
exactly.
because I got beef with my family as people I probably won't even speak to no more right now. But then I also have like friends, like fictive kin, like my own chosen brothers. You
Mm-hmm.
know
Yeah.
that
Yes. Yes.
I take a bullet for it. Like it's just,
Well,
woo.
there isn't a single simple character in the story. I
No, they're
mean,
complex.
Oh
and
yeah.
that
Oh,
taking the time
absolutely.
to make that happen in a graphic novel is
Well, yes, like
really an
you have to like
accomplishment.
give that to Damien. Damien is a masterful writer. I mean, we've been
Hmm.
working together for about 20 years. He
Hmm.
understands the medium of
Oh.
comics extremely well.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
and what I love about this, so one of the things that we regretted because we didn't have as much power over Kindred is that we requested a sensitivity reader, a sensitivity editor. You
Mm.
might know her. Her name is Tananarive Du.
Mm.
Yeah, she's a wonderful horror writer. She teaches Octavia Butler's Parable of Sword every semester at UCLA.
Mm.
She
Mm.
knows the story very well. So we wanted to make sure that a black woman was touching this book, you know, to make sure that the voices were correct, that we were actually coming correct with everything. You know,
Oh,
because we're
yeah.
both like, you know, cis het, you know, men. Damien's white, you know, so we're
Yeah.
trying to tell this stuff. But I tell you that when I read his script, I was like, dude, you just wrote Parable of Sower and you
Yeah.
just wrote these are
Yes.
comic book. I mean, you just like you just did a thing, bro.
Well,
Yeah.
some time ago, the all of us here did a review of a different
We
version
did.
of Kindred,
Hmm.
and
Yes.
everybody here was extremely complimentary of the graphic novel.
Thank you.
Because to maintain that level of complexity does require 250 pages,
Yeah,
Oh
right?
yeah.
it's a
And
lot of work.
the amount of
I
work
have
that
and
goes
I still and I hurt myself making Kindred. Actually, I have a Kindred shoulder.
Ooh.
My bad. Yeah, seriously, it flares up from time to time.
Wow.
Like it's yeah, because Kindred I did very
Mhm.
differently, and it's over 700 drawings.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So look,
How
here's
long
what
does
I'm going to
something
do.
like
Oh, go
that
ahead. Go
take
ahead. Go
to
ahead.
I'm sorry.
No, go
Yeah.
ahead.
That's a
I want to
good
know how long
question.
does something like an adaptation take, especially because you're not just kind of telling this like kind of not rewriting but rewriting, but also
Hmm.
illustrating and
Yeah.
coloring
Retelling.
and all the things that how
Yeah.
long does that
It depends. You know, a safe it should take about a couple of years, you know what I'm saying? It
Okay.
took us a little bit longer for different reasons. COVID was a huge thing. We had a
Yeah.
lot of change in
Oh,
our lives,
yeah.
that kind of stuff. Um, and because of some snafu with Kindred, we actually only ended up having, I think we had a total of 8 or 9 months to do it.
Oh, it came out great.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But we almost
Um,
murdered
Yeah,
them. Yeah, there was
came
there
out
was
real good.
thank you. There was a misunderstanding with some of the contractual stuff, and it was our first graphic novel. We wanted to do a good job, and you know,
Okay.
we really pushed it harder than we should have, but we got it done.
mm,
But yeah, but generally, like
It came out
for
good.
something the size of like Parable of Soul or Parable of Talents, we're probably looking at about 18 months. So we did it. We did a huge amount of work in like half the time. Um, for
These
Kindred, I was literally
characters have lived with you for months,
yeah.
yes, it's a lot.
years.
People don't
Years.
understand. Like,
Yeah.
we signed a contract to do. We've been working on the Parable books for like a long time. I think my son is 5. He wasn't even born yet. You know what I'm saying? So we're talking about
Mm,
Wow.
the
Okay.
commitment is crazy.
That's
But
good
we
though.
become adept at adaptation. Like I adapted, Nydia Okorafor's short story, and I'm getting
yes.
ready to do a Victor Laval short story. Actually,
Oh,
pretty.
okay.
Um,
It's amazing. And so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to talk about my frame. We have 14 questions waiting.
Geez.
All you students out there, if we don't,
Okay.
we're gonna get to your questions, but
Okay.
if for
Let's
some
see.
We'll
reason
get
we
to it.
don't worry about it. You'll get your points. So here's the thing. When I read Parable of the Sower, I was absolutely blown away by Earthseed. And the reason I'm blown away by Earthseed is because God has changed, change is God, is rather consistent with the way I talk about reality as a philosopher, psychologist. And then all the nuance that Octavia puts into what that idea means, I find so many resonance points. And what I love about finding the resonance points is I'm using science and, traditional philosophy, and she's writing in a narrative form, and the overlap is stunning. And when you overlap with someone like that in a genre, in a space where not many people are, in other words, to write Earthseed the way she did it and have it become a driving force, there aren't not many people are going to write something like that.
Right.
And to find that idea from a different domain where I come from, all that ever does to me is make me feel like I'm on the right path. If I find that level of convergence from such a diverse space, it's like, damn, we all saw the universe at the same time. Um, but I'm gonna read the whole thing. But this
Mhm.
God is change, and in the end, God prevails. But meanwhile, kindness eases change, love quiets fear, and a sweet and powerful positive obsession blunts pain, diverts rage, and engages each of us in the greatest of the most intense of our chosen struggles. What I love about that idea is pain's coming, y'all. You're not going to get out of this life without pain. The slings and arrows are coming. But if you got something you love and you live your life moving with that, the slings and arrows won't hit you as hard. But they're going to hit you and it's going to hurt. But just keep moving. And then I'm going to read one more thing and then I'll shut up. Um, uh, Olamina believes in a God that does not love her. Her God is a process or a combination of processes like biological evolution, chaos theory, relativity theory, the uncertainty principle, second law of thermodynamics. I mean, this is my wheelhouse. These are the
Mhm.
kind of ideas, these are the kind of ideas I work in to try to make, and I'll say this and move on, reality in all of us inherently meaningful and actually made of meaning. So
Mhm.
instead of meaning being something that we people have to find, meaning is something that we manage. And we manage our meaning by the way we live, the work we do. And so I would have loved to have had the opportunity to sit and have this chat with Miss Octavia Butler because the level of resonance is just stunning. And I felt seen when I read that in ways that I often don't feel seen. So
Mm,
that's my favorite
I love
part.
it.
Uh,
One of my favorite things is like the non sequitur images that we got a chance to do. I mean,
yeah.
we had so much because of the landscape and stuff. Um, we had a
Mhm.
lot of space to play with, because of
Yes.
where Acorn was, and David did such a great job of showing like the desert and the forests and yeah, so you really felt very present. The crazy thing too is that, I live in Southern California, so color scheme wise, I was actually sampling the actual color of the space. There's a program
Mm-hmm.
called, there's an app called Capture, Adobe Capture.
Mm.
And what happens is like you can actually take a picture of a scene, and it will, and it actually, what it'll do, it'll give you like a color scheme that you can then put into your computer and you can use it. So you can just take a
Wow.
picture of anything, and it'll give you the color
Mhm.
scheme of it. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Mhm.
Anybody else want to comment on that frame? If the answer is no,
Well,
that's perfectly. Go ahead.
yeah,
Go ahead.
I did like that frame. I like her exposition of it. I think, oh, I had to, my screen went blank. I thought, what? I thought it was my computer.
Drink it.
Sorry about that. I blinked and I thought because every now and then my computer goes on a blink. But anyway, but for me, the most profound thing that Olamina, aka Octavia E. Butler, says, and that is when she says, everything you touch
Yes.
changes,
Right.
Yeah.
and everything changes that touches you. And to me, that is the most profound thing in the whole book because it's so universally correct.
Yes. And that means that every single thing you do matters.
Everything.
There's nothing
Yes,
you do that doesn't matter. And
exactly.
when we use the word what matters, we really try to, dare I say, we other our possibilities. And we get to pretend that some of the things we do don't matter. And when you limit yourself like that, um, just like um, the unwillingness to give up, um, the unwillingness to give up Earthseed, just unshakable will to continue to try to manifest that. That's a commitment to everything you do matters. Nothing doesn't matter. And if God has changed, then God can be shaped. I just love that whole way of talking. And
Yes.
everything you touch touches you. Everything
Right.
you change changes you. And I'll just say so much of the time in the culture I live in, we think that the dominant thing about a person is the quote unquote choices they make as an individual. And we then ignore
Yeah.
the different rivers different people are swimming in, right? We're not swimming in the same river. And different people are doing different things, touching different things that are touching them in different ways. And once you can think this earth seed way, then you can start to look at everything as if everything matters and
Yeah.
maybe release some of the uptightness in the way you see and think, because there's nothing you can overlook that's irrelevant or doesn't matter. So I love it.
Mhm.
All righty, here's what we're gonna do now. It's telling me here we got 16 questions. So let's do this. Hi, my question is, with being a graphic designer, do you see a lot of othering in today's day-to-day life? That's for
Uh,
you, John.
I mean, I think that sometimes we do it instinctively, you know what I'm saying? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it depends on like how you so I think some of it is actually just kind of like, very primal. We're very tribal people.
Yeah.
Human beings are tribal primarily. So the first thing we start to
Yes.
do is to group people according to something. For instance, you ever see that Star Trek episode with the guy, the old school Star Trek episode with the guys with
Oh, old school. That's
with the
right.
with the two sides,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Black
so
face, white face.
no,
Yeah,
it's like let
yeah.
this be your battleground, like your final battleground or something like that.
Mm,
It's about these two races that were fighting against each other, that almost killed each other, right?
yes.
And so when Spock and Kirk and them see him, they're like, "Why are you fighting? You're the same people. What's wrong with you?"
Yeah, yeah.
And what it
Exactly.
is like one dude had white on this side and black on the other, and the other one had.
Right.
It was like, wait a minute.
Brilliant.
And it's
Absolutely
heavy-handed.
brilliant.
But it's a very handy, but it's very like old school Star
Mhm.
Trek. But what he was saying is like we always find something that's different
Yep.
in someone to
Right.
focus on. You know what I'm saying? That's just human nature. But
And
the
then what
thing,
we do is we raise kids in that space when they're helpless and don't know how to resist that way of thinking. And then by the time they're 5, that's how they think. And
yeah,
then you got to do all kinds of work to make them aware of it and try to transform it. Yeah.
To quote Octavia Butler, what she said is she had two major fears. One is man creates hierarchies, and the second one is that man wants to be at the top of that hierarchy.
Yep.
And that's what a lot of our stuff is about: power struggles, power structures.
Yeah. That's actually part of the course, this idea of multi-scale othering. You know the boundaries that you're living in. Know the boundaries that your lived life is sustaining. What boundaries? Just getting gas every day. Is there a boundary we're sustaining by getting gas in a car? Yeah, there's geopolitical crap happening all over the world because of us putting gas in our car. I'm not trying to make anybody guilty, but to sit there at the gas pump and think all I'm doing is getting gas is one way to approach it. But that then prevents you from having to address everything you touch touches everything else, and you are not as separate as you think. And what happens to your way of thinking and being if we can make you aware of this and provide alternatives. Thanks for that. We're going to go on to Emma. Emma Clements asks, hello, have you learned anything new or interesting about othering through the art of these graphic novels or your podcast that some people may not have thought about?
Oh, that's a good question. That's for y'all.
I'll say it once again. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I think with us,
Ellen.
with the podcast, especially before we had our first family reunion, in our individual lives, and we're watching TV, and I could be talking about a show, like a reality show or something I'm watching with my family, and they're just not as enthusiastic as I am about it. But, or we're watching something and we see the stereotypes that we talk about, like say on Survivor. Okay, Black people really do know how to swim. Let's not go there for a stereotype.
Not even a real thing.
So, right.
Yeah.
So when we meet up, we don't have that sense of othering. We have the sense of, these are my people.
Yeah.
Family.
I'm understood.
Yeah.
I'm accepted. I'm not the only one who thinks this way. Yeah.
When I showed up at my first family reunion and there was actually a space where I could express my killer dance skills, I couldn't stop thinking.
Without judgment. Without judgment.
Without
judgment.
Right.
What are you trying to say? You were judging and just didn't say it?
No.
No.
We were just there to be in each other's presence.
But that's a good point, Ellen. That's a good point.
Yeah.
And we have found that, there have been situations where we have other people. We also have invited other people on our podcast because one or the other of the sisters is on vacation or doing this, doing that. And because of the dynamic that we have, and that these are all kinds of people, white, Black, it doesn't matter what race, but they just fall right in. And we've done podcasts with them on whatever the subject is. They just fall right in with us, talk the same, do the same thing that we do, because that's just, as Scott puts it, that's our space. That's where we live every day.
Yeah.
Every day.
And I've complimented Sistah Speak many times on doing the work to create such a inclusive space and an energy-filled space. People need energy, and people love that kind of energy.
Yep.
They're drawn to it, and they contribute. And then suddenly you're doing something. They're doing something in their life they don't do in another space. And
and we love it. We're just being us. We don't even, it's not a script or a try or let me see if I can do this. This is just us. So I think that's why people are drawn to our energy, because we honestly, we live this. So
yeah,
I think too, for us and for me specifically, it's about connection, connecting, because you do sometimes grow up feeling different if you are a little bit different and not the norm. And the years that I grew up, it was being Black, or it was being a Black person with freckles. That was a big one. Or the way that I spoke. And I felt different. And so when I did have a chance to connect with people on whatever level I could, whether it was we both like this book, or we love this show, or we just were in the same class, or just enjoying someone's company, where it didn't feel forced and you got to choose who was in your friend circle or your family.
Yep.
To me, that makes it more special. It's not like your family that you have to love because you're blood, and you really don't have to, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Your family you're just kind of born into and you don't have a choice. But when you can find other family that you choose based on the criteria that you want in your life. And for me, it was connecting with people that I would never have ever met without this wonderful internet and podcasting, which I didn't know about 20 years ago, but you know, we've learned about. All of these people and experiences that I've had since then has all been to enrich my life and my understanding of who I am.
Yep.
And I don't know how to explain it. I'm probably rambling at this point, but that's what I take from it. And that's what I want in my life. That's what I love so much about what we're able to do. And I love things like ReggieCon that kind of give people a space to connect with people and to hear other thoughts and to ask questions and talk through differences and still know at the end of the day, we can all still be a family. We can all still be friends if we don't agree on every single thing, or we look different, or we have different thoughts or different philosophies. And that's what I love about this, and specifically ReggieCon and what you're doing.
Even if you get an extra hard read in the Sistah Speak Nation, they still love you. They still let you back.
Love.
Well, I can tell you, as a person who grew up in the era, era that Octavia wrote her books, her latest books in, I can tell you it is vastly different today than it was at the time that she lived. And you know, I just feel so grateful for like podcasting and Zooming and all of that, because as Sister K pointed out, as a Black person growing up in Kansas who looks like me, but I am Black, you know, you take a lot of stuff. And for me to come out with my psyche and my personality and my beliefs and faith intact, I think is a miracle. Frankly. So,
yeah,
but
testament to your strength.
that's how I learned to give people a good read.
That's right. Gotta have that. Gotta be moving somewhere. All right, we're gonna go on Hannah Ortel, and we supposedly have 17, so we'll keep these answers kind of short.
Okay.
We'll just rip through. So Hannah Ortel asks, what are some ways we can promote inclusivity and eliminate othering on our college campus? The obvious answer is ReggieCon, but we'll go.
Yeah, ReggieCon. Yeah, I mean, for me, I think that, as that you don't learn things until you're like uncomfortable,
Well said.
Things that make you uncomfortable. A lot of people, I mean, most people don't like being uncomfortable, right?
Nope.
Go through a lot of chutes and ladders and hoops to like not feel estranged in some way, My classes, I just try to keep it real. It's like, this is what we're going to talk about. My classes are really blickety black, and we talk about these really Black things, have a lot of history and theory, and that kind of stuff. I think that curiosity and empathy are ways to kind of move past these things, and I think that if you are used to being the center of attention, that you have a very low threshold of empathy,
Yeah.
And there's a really it's a great quote. It says, I want to jack it up. To the privileged, equity feels like oppression. To the privileged, equity feels like oppression. So the whole thing is like, if I lose, because you're so used to all the light being on you, but when you want to share, you have to share the stage. You have to share the light. And so I feel like really, really understanding each other's humanity, because we always focus on the things that are different. We are taught to not think about the things that are the same, because when you boil down to it, we're all humans, and we have the same struggles. We have the same, loves and passion for life, so we need to actually focus on the things that bring us together. Stories bring us together,
Yes.
Right? So,
yes.
Anyway.
That's fantastic.
I think,
Okay,
I think the greatest lesson young people can learn is you are one in millions. That's it. You are one in millions. So everybody feels that same way. You are one in millions. It's not all about you.
Mm. Yeah, exactly. And disrupting a lifetime of living that way is difficult.
Or in another positive way to say that would be, I think in a way that would, I don't know that everyone thinks that it's about them, but I think focusing more on ways where we can connect, where we can be similar, where we can learn from each other and positive learning. Because I've learned things from all types of people
Yes.
in my life. And if you come at life with an open mind and heart to really learn more than what you feel like you know, because when you're young, you think you know everything.
Yeah.
But when you're really open to, but that's just age, I think. That's just from lack of experience.
Yeah, because I tell y'all that all the time.
Well, but you think you know everything. It goes both ways, older and younger. But I will say that I think if you come at life with that openness, just openness of your heart, mind, soul, everything, that's where it's at. It's not about, I don't think, this thinking that you're the only. Knowing that you are not the only, to me, is helpful so you don't feel strange or other in your own self. It's not just always about what other people think of you. It's about what you think about yourself. That really, I think, affects how people treat other people. And so if you come at it that way, and I don't know, I think that would go a long way in helping people really get through life a lot happier and feeling more whole.
Yes. I'll add to that one thing I've learned over the last year of my life is there are some things that you just can't do for yourself. In other words, there are some things that need to be said to you by someone else. And if you're stuck in a world of it's just me, you're denying access to all the help you can get from other people, all the affirmation you can get from other people. Now, once you start going that way, you risk negativity. Yes, but I've just had some people say things to me that is like, damn, I could have never said that myself. I would have never had that thought. And they pull you and they put you in a completely different kaleidoscope. And so my advice is to take the risk of leaning into others and take the risk. If you, it's easy to say, but take the risk of being who you are, right? And over time, that will suss out your crowd, right? That'll suss out your found family. It'll be painful because there's going to be rejections, but yeah, that's me on that. We got to keep moving here.
Yeah, we got to move quick.
All right. Whoever has an answer first, jump in. We'll have one answer and we'll do lightning round here.
Shut up.
Adam Swice asks, hello, unrelated to the othering, but what particular panel or page do you most connect with? Somebody jump in. Okay, I'm jumping in.
Didn't we already do that?
Well, yeah, I'll just answer. I'm jumping in with the Ursi panel that I showed because Ursi blew me away when I read it. Okay. The next name is Ashley Bielis. Hello, my question is, how has othering affected your personal life? Do certain examples of othering in your lives affect you long-term, or do you try to use it as a learning experience for others? Somebody jump in.
I'm not one to linger on things, so I always use it as a learning experience and then move on from there.
Excellent. We're going to move to the next question. The lightning round's working. Okay. Comico Leprete. For John Jennings, have you ever had someone interpret your work in a different way than you had hoped? If so, were you open to the interpretation?
I think that one of the things I like about art is the fact that you have these different interpretations, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that actually. I think that's wonderful.
That was a good question.
Yeah, and it's so fun to see someone resonate.
Everybody's going to have their different art is subjective, you know what I'm saying? And so you have to bring your different ideas to it. I like it when people have different interpretations.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Next question. Hannah Bailey. Hello. I'm curious about some of the challenges that were faced when adapting this story into a graphic novel. That would be for John.
I'm sorry, what was the first part of the question?
I'm curious about some of the challenges that were faced when adapting this story into a graphic novel.
Well, first, first and foremost, the content is difficult. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
She writes hard, man. It's like it's a heavy lift. And so when you're drawing something into reality, definitely. Yeah.
Okay.
So, it's very difficult. But the other thing is that whenever you adapt something, you change it, and each medium has a different modality. Like so, film deals with
Yes.
storytelling differently. Prose deal with storytelling differently. Comics, so you have to know all the different variations of it. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
All right. Caitlin Isabel Wren asks, how do you research for authenticity when representing different cultures, history, or communities?
I would say probably the easiest part, if you're wanting to write or something, is biographies by the people. Like biographies. If you want to know about Cree culture, I would read some biographies written by people who are Cree about their culture. You see what I mean? So
Yes.
that'd be my suggestion.
All right, I'm gonna keep moving. We got a lot more here. Ava F asks for Professor Jennings. I was wondering how the areas of character design and world building were addressed when reimagining the very raw elements of Octavia Butler's novels. In other words, how did your team express their experiences and voices while staying true to the source material?
A lot of things about style is a system of decisions.
Yeah.
So when you're, a lot of the style as far as like world building and stuff goes, is you have to gauge what's possible in the amount of time you have.
Yes.
Because one of the things you can't just dilly-dally on the book. You have to understand,
No.
what
Gotcha.
can I get across now? Okay.
Yes.
What are the different stylistic things that I want to get across that can actually be done expeditiously, that kind of stuff. So you're not necessarily as focused on like trying to stunt and create your own,
Mhm.
interpretation because you're limited by the time. And so,
Yeah.
but also too, you want to actually step out of the way and focus on the artwork a lot more as far as like how it interpreted. You have to figure out how to interpret her voice. Our needs are like at the back. Our needs are at the
Yeah.
back of the bus, so to speak. Yeah.
Yes, and I've written the next famous T-shirt that'll be running around. Style is a system of decisions.
Yeah.
I'll cite you
And
in that
yes,
T-shirt.
that's what it is
It
because
is.
you're making decisions. A lot of times those decisions are based on like different parameters that you have.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, Joshua asks, "How how do you feel about the Super Bowl performance and the message and othering? Do you feel it was a positive step in the right direction in another aspect of culture?" I see if someone wants to
Somebody else can
address
jump
that.
in. I have
I feel
things,
like it's I feel like it was again one of those things that's up to interpretation.
Mm,
Some people picked up on a message, other people didn't. What I would consider was a blatant message could have went over someone else's head, or it just also depends on where you are in your personal life and what you connect with in that performance.
Excellent.
there we go. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Isa, hello. I just wanted to say that I admire you all. I believe black and brown representation is very important and it's not seen in superheroes as much. What sparked this passion for you? Do you have any advice for young people wanting to create change?
the okay. Again, I'm I'm probably the first part of it I missed again. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Um, I believe black and brown representation is very
Okay.
important
Mhm.
and it's not seen in superheroes as much. What sparked this passion for you? Do you have any advice for young people wanting to create change?
Well, I think I asked the first part first. So you don't necessarily have to be an artist to make change, obviously. I think
Right.
that, first, figure out what your skills are, like far as like what are the things that you see that you want to attack. You can't change everything, but you can actually like start to enact change in the space, like in your community, you know, being open-minded about the world, learning a particular thing that you want to share with the world, becoming an artist, and change works differently. Everybody doesn't have to be in the street with a picket sign.
Yes.
My niece
That's
too.
one of the challenges young activists face is they
Yeah,
don't
yeah, exactly. So you can't change everything. You
No.
have to find the cause. You have to figure out what part of the world you want to change, because we have these wicked problems that have been put into place for generations. And they're not going to. And the other thing too you have to deal with is that the change you want to see, you probably won't live to see.
Right.
And you have
May
to
not happen in
understand
your lifetime.
it's not going to happen in your
Right.
lifetime. So that's something else you have to see.
Mhm.
One of the things I loved about the end of the book is that Olamina did see the rocket go up in outer space before she passed away. But she's not going to see what happens next, and you have to understand that we have a finite amount of time on this earth.
But she is sending her ashes.
Right. See, that's right. Yeah. So
that's what I want.
The other thing is that
go ahead.
That I became passionate about representation later on in life. I mean, I came up in Mississippi where like it was normalized that we weren't in the center of the conversation, and we were like, we were like annexing black characters like Panthro from Thundercats. So he black. So or like characters that any kind of other character, we're like, oh, that character's black. Hong Kong Fooey, oh yeah, he definitely black. That kind of, right? That's what we didn't come up with a lot of representations of ourselves. So we were like very we were starved by that, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So but I think we're in a different era now, and that when I started to see that there was a dearth of representation, I started studying it, the history of it, how to actually fight against it, and then try to empower others.
That's fantastic. And Earthseed teaches us how to be activists. Everything you change changes you. Take satisfaction in just doing the work, and don't kill yourself if people don't get persuaded, because so many people burn out and they need to be coached. Do the moment and go find some peace. Do another moment. So here's the thing. It's 8:30. I have 9 more questions. If you have to go, please feel free to go. Don't go right now though. But if you guys are comfortable sticking around for a few more minutes and answering these questions, we could do that. John, how's that look for you?
That sounds good. We could, I got a little bit of time.
All right, I appreciate you. Thank you. And ladies, are you comfortable staying for a little while?
Yeah, let's roll.
This is the most questions we've ever had at a ReggieCon. This is rocking. All right, Katie Turner says, my question is for John Jennings. When you are working on graphic novels like these, what kinds of connections do you feel towards the characters? And do those connections ever change how you feel the graphic novel should look?
Oh, that's a good question. Try to be a vessel for the characters. So whenever you're creating a character, you're creating an index for the artist, for the audience. You know what I'm saying? So the other thing you have to remember about cartooning is that cartooning is abstract. It's the abstraction of an idea, and so you're trying to actually create like a vessel for the character, but also for the audience to live into, and also yourself. It's a tricky thing. It's not illustrating an idea like that is a very different thing. Like we're illustrating a comic, but cartooning is like it's kind of you're taking away these abstract pieces, right? So so it's a balance between like you seeing yourself in the character, you trying to understand what the initial idea is, and also trying to figure out, can I make this kind of a cipher that the audience see themselves into? It's a weird and very complex exchange, right? So for instance, you ever look at like a spark, like a socket, like a light socket, and you see a screaming face, for instance? When you take you have looks like 2 eyes and a mouth, right? Right. So it's like this idea is that it's like, what do you call it? It's general, what does Scott McCloud call it? Is it like focus through subtraction? I'm forgetting what the thing is. Basically, it's like the more abstract you make a face, essentially, the more
you put yourself. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So everybody has a head and 2 eyes and a mouth. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. Excellent. Riley asks, hello, what is the most influential event or person to you all that continues to or has challenged othering in a powerful way? And how does this day inspire you to do the work that you do? What is the most influential event or person to you all that continues, because they've read the ends of the sentences, person to you all that continues to or has challenged othering in a powerful way?
Was there no punctuation in that?
You can't ask me that on screen. I got
Well, no.
no. Something, an event or a person that has a challenged othering and inspired you. Anyone?
Oh, well, for me, it was my grandmother. So she lived like she lived with us when I was a kid, and then she moved. My uncle, her son, bought her a house, which was 1 block from our house. So in the summertime, my parents would let me go and spend the summer at my grandmother's, but it was 1 block away, you know. But she taught me so much stuff, just about life, living, crocheting, all kinds of stuff. So.
That's amazing. Jenna, if you're still there, it says you were going to answer a question live. Did I already do that question, or do whatever you want there? All right.
You
we'll come
answered
back
it,
to
Scott. You
I
answered it.
did. Sorry about that. I didn't see the note until after I was by it. Okay, we're getting there. Well, Abisi Kuku asks, how have each of you as comic visionaries utilized the structural elements of graphic novels, such as text, panel sizes, page spreads, to artistically express visual representations of othering? This is pretty much the point of the class I teach, right?
Well, it's funny. I don't think that when I'm creating a story, I'm not necessarily thinking about othering in a particular way. I mean, there's an automatic othering where you're creating a character that is outside of yourself, right? So that's an othering process, and not necessarily a negative othering process. But when you're creating a representation of a character, that is an othering process, but not necessarily where you're trying to like distance yourself from it. It's just you have created another being, to a certain
Yes.
extent. But for when I'm working on a comic, my main thing is like, how do I tell the best story?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to go to the next. Well, I'm going to go to another question. Brian Alonso, in a modern retelling of the parable of the talents, how would the different characters use or misuse of their abilities reflect current societal views on success, responsibility, and personal growth? In a modern retelling of the parable of talents, how would the different characters, that's possessive, use or misuse of their abilities reflect current societal views on success, responsibility, and personal growth?
I'm not really sure. I mean,
Yeah.
because the thing that's really scary about the parable books is that they're prescient, but I feel like we are in the middle of them right now. So it's like,
Yes.
Well, and I was thinking that there's nothing that I can think of that would redeem Marcus.
Yeah.
I mean, he's like so many people that we encounter as far as in the news and like reading about and stuff. And today, I mean, he was all about me, my success, my success. I want to be
Yeah.
the greatest preacher, blah, 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 to the extent that you're going to demonize your own sister. I mean, anyway,
Yes.
so yeah, I don't think there's any redemption there.
There you go. We have 7 questions left. I'll give brief single answers to all these. Please don't add any more questions to the queue. These wonderful people have been here, and I told them 8:30 Central Time, and I need to stick to that. Emily Dunlap asks, how do you think the context of your podcast affect the othering system of your listeners? Does it line up with the effect that you want?
I think so, because they all love us and we love them.
I think our reach has gone beyond what we thought it would be.
Way beyond. Like I said before, we have people from Belgium, Germany, Canada, Australia, I mean, all over. So
I think the thing that surprised me the most when we started, sorry, I added extra.
No, go ahead. No, you're fine.
I think the thing that surprised me the most about when we started realizing who all was listening and responding, and part of our Sistah Speak Nation, was I was surprised by how many other than Black people were interested in what we had to say. Because in so many instances, that's kind of what we're told, the opposite. Nobody cares, you're playing too much, or it's just a made up thing. And I was surprised by how many other people resonated with what we talked about, didn't enjoy the same thing we didn't enjoy, the stereotypes that were being displayed, and even brought more conversation and thoughts to the table that we didn't have. And so being able to kind of learn from their experiences, and they're learning from ours, is what surprised me the most. And so I think that kind of evolved what we hoped to be getting out of the podcast. At first was just a way for us to voice our thoughts, and we didn't know that anyone would even listen. And then to see all of these people that did listen and then resonated with what we talked about, and then we all became friends, family, that to me was the goal. That's the one I'm most proud of with what we've been able to create.
That's fantastic.
Yep.
We only have two questions left. And then Malia Fuller, hello. Do you think people continue to hold on to stereotypes because of misrepresentations in media? And do you think that TV shows and movies still misrepresent characters?
Yeah.
I think yes to both.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. The last question.
What?
You said short and sweet.
And it was. Last question. Jose Garcia, how do you think the growth of digital spaces has changed the way othering works? And what role do you believe technology plays in either deepening or bridging these divides?
That's a good question. So
It is.
we're in a space right now where okay, let me back up. So the first time I was using Midjourney, because I actually do mess around with AI sometimes just to see what its possibilities are, So one of the first things that I did once Midjourney could actually make a realistic image of a person, because at first it couldn't. It was actually kind of like, what is this thing, right? But the technology exploded, right? So because I'm a big nerd, I made an AI image of Jean Baudrillard, who created the idea of the simulation, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So yeah, so the simulation is an image that has no referent in real life. So most images have this is a thing, this is the thing that's represented.
Right.
A simulation starts in the hyperspace, right? So that's where we are with othering, right? So now we're in a space now where you have the power to create totally non-referential images ad nauseum at the click of a button, and it's kind of scary, So yeah, I mean, you actually have a way now where you can actually superimpose people's bodies, you can change things, animate things. So we've moved way past just othering. We moved into this hyper othering kind of thing, right? So
Well said.
Well, and the other thing too is that when you're online, if you're on Facebook and stuff, you have all these different avatars of yourself, that are part, but also at the same time not. So
yeah,
I don't know necessarily if it's bridging gaps. I think that we do take advantage of it and stuff like that, but we hide behind these avatars and stuff like that too, So yeah, I think it's a wild west when it comes to othering now, to the point
well said.
yeah, it's kind of crazy.
We'll see how well we manage it, right, over the next decade.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, I'll tell you what, unfortunately, it's time to bring this amazing ReggieCon panel to a close. Please join us on next month, Women's History Month, with a discussion of award-winning graphic novelist Amy Kurzweil's graphic novel, Flying Couch. If you look at the backgrounds a lot of us have here, that a QR code will take you to the ReggieCon homepage where you can look at the schedule, see what's coming up. Please be here for that. And we love these questions. Fantastic conversation. Sistah K, J, and LM, thanks so much for joining in this evening, making discussion of Parable of the Talents and a celebration of Black History Month, making it so special for all of us. We really, truly appreciate it.
This was great.
You're welcome.
Yeah,
Thank
so
was
and
you.
fun.
I'm glad you got a chance to check out the book way in advance, actually. Yeah.
Thank
I
you.
We
know.
very much
Anybody else?
Special.
appreciate this.
Yeah,
And
so
I'm keeping my advance copy too.
John, as always, it's been an absolute thrill. Thanks so much for being here. Do you have any
Thank you.
final comments about upcoming events?
Well, let's see. I got a lot of stuff jumping off. I'm going to be at Motor City Con. I'm very excited about in April also. I wrote an Ironheart one shot story for
Yes.
Marvel Comics, so that
Mhm.
comes out in April as well. You know,
Cool.
and I wrote it, to kind of celebrate the film that's coming out.
Mm.
And yeah, that's about it. I mean, there's a bunch of stuff happening. I'm
Yeah,
sure I'm blanking on a bunch of things, but I can catch you up on a few other things. So
there you go.
yeah.
Ladies of Sistah Speak Nation, anything's coming up that you'd like to announce?
The only thing really is we are planning a mini reunion, not really a reunion, but kind of like a little meetup in Houston, the second weekend in March. So that's coming up in about 3 or 4 weeks, the 7th, 8th, and 9th. And we're hoping to maybe plan a real reunion. Well, our real
Yes.
Yeah.
reunion in the fall or early next year.
Amazing.
So we'll have details of that later on our
I
website.
want to thank all of you for sticking around later. I want to thank everyone in the audience who asked us questions. What a fantastic discussion.
Great question.
And thanks once again to everyone behind the scenes for making us look like we know what we're doing.
Yes.
All right. Thanks to everyone for joining us in this ReggieCon celebration of Black History Month. Until next time, have a good evening.